Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another episode of Hurdle the Line. As ever, I am your host Fletch, and joining me is my co-host, who is the other host with and he's the one with the most. It's Chapman. How are we, sir?
Man, you're always so complimentary. I wish I could just call you every morning and just get my day started with some Fletch compliments.
Not in the morning. I'll text you when I have
You're
dinner
right.
coffee, and
Yeah,
then
yeah.
do it. You'll get a lot of expletives, and nothing I say will be complimentary. Uh,
That's not true. You're a sweetheart over text most of the time.
um, in the afternoon, yes. Um, But there's not too much NFL news this week, so I just thought I wanted to get in with a couple of things. So last week I missed out, by the way, Chapman, and I feel really, really, really bad. I say really, really, really bad, a little bad. We missed out on a special birthday last week, and he's not here today. But Sam had a birthday last
Oh,
week,
happy birthday, Sam. Belated.
and we didn't mention it. It got mentioned on the college pod because somebody else brought it up, and then I realized I didn't message Sam until like 11:30 at night on the day, and I was like, I am so sorry. But I did want to remember, want to wish Sam a massive belated happy birthday. And on that note, just real quick, I did want to give a special birthday shout out to someone who is, I feel, equally part of well, is very much part of the network. She has a lot of say in the background of what goes on. But Lady Fletch, my daughter, turned 8 today, and I'm just gonna get massive happy birthday to my daughter, um, who's
Happy birthday, Miss Lady Fletch, little Lady Fletch,
yeah,
8 years old.
because well, I think now she's a regular listener. Now she's decided that she's a football fan.
Oh,
Um,
who's her favorite member of the cast so far?
she's an 8-year-old. She's now an 8-year-old girl. I give you one guess, and I guarantee you get it right. Um, yeah, she's a huge Mike Tomlin fan. So, um, no, that young lady has pinned her colours to the Kansas City Chiefs mast. Although has a soft spot apparently for the Dolphins because she's been to Miami. And was telling me all about how she's swam with dolphins. Um, so there is that
Well, that's
also
cool.
in there. Um, But anyway, enough about that. We want to get onto some of the NFL news. There isn't a lot of NFL news at the moment. In fact, where am I going? Sports news in general. Chapman, I believe something very special happened in your home state of Georgia last night.
Yeah. Rory won his first Masters and completed his Grand Slam. He's one of only six golfers in the history to do that. Um, and like five of them or I should say four of them are huge names like Tiger and Arnold Palmer. I think Nicklaus and I don't know, Ben Hogan and Rory. So he is in rarefied air. He also hasn't won a major in 11 years after he won four sort of in his first few years of golf. He has replaced Tiger as I think the fan favorite in golf now, and he just seems like a really awesome guy. He almost lost it in pure Masters form, which Fletch, I was trying to convince you, which you totally brushed off in a very nice way. But even if you do not like golf, the Masters is one of the classic sporting events, I think, around the world. And it's so cool because it's the same course every year. Yes, obviously they moved the tees and the golf, but
Yeah.
it's consistent and it's like there's no other sport that's like that. But anyway, congratulations to Rory. If you didn't watch, it is cool just to go watch and see what happened in the there was a playoff hole which he won. But it was I think a big weight off his shoulders to finally win the Masters.
Yeah. I mean, I saw it all coming through on social media last night. It seemed very exciting. And it was, well, I just it was like 1 minute he'd won it, 1 minute he'd lost it, the next minute he'd won it again, and the next minute he'd lost it. Look, as a fan of sports in general, you know when something big happens and when something's very much worth noting. And for it to happen to someone over this side of the Atlantic Ocean, I think it's definitely worth noting
Yeah.
whether we're a golf pod or not. And I know that certain members of kind of the whole of AEW were fans of golf and big fans of golf. So, um, yeah, congratulations, Rory McIlroy. And
Yay. Gets a green jacket.
he does. He does. But with that all in mind. Before we get onto the NFL stuff, I just want to remind everybody to follow the AAW network on all of social media. If you can, we're on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, which I do need to get better at. I've been promising for ages I'm going to do it, and I just haven't. I am going to get better at it, I promise. And well, we're on the four main ones. I'm not doing much more. It's that they're the ones we need. Other than my favorite, Discord, where we have our own dedicated server with various channels for different football related things, different sports, different life related things. I put memes in there, which I know you saw one I put in the other day about the USB and the Canadian B, which I thought was hilarious. Um, there's lots of great things going on in there. We've had some really nice discussions happening within the channel over the last few days as well. So coming and getting on that with college, draft, NFL, or just something else.
It's a great time to join, Fletch. Great
It
time to
is.
join. The week before the this is the week before the week,
It is.
which
It
I'm very
is.
excited. And we will be doing some draft stuff too. I'll be up that night. I'll be on the Discord for sure. Probably
Yes.
complaining about whoever my team picks.
Well, I've got a couple of ideas of something I want to do. Last year we tried to do a Twitter space that just kind of happened. I'd like to maybe
Yeah.
see if we can get one of the voice chats going on in the
Do,
Discord.
do you remember I got on and I was too angry and I had to get back, I had to get off because I was like, these
Yeah.
guys don't know me well enough yet. So I had to get on a more Falcons friendly place to be mad.
So all I remember from that night, and this is the tidbit I'll share from that night, was just as the Falcons were about to pick, Chapman says, "Right, I'm just gonna go. I'm gonna watch the Falcons pick, and then I'll be back because I don't want someone else ruining it for you or anything like that. So you're gonna go watch it." Anyway, the Falcons pick at number eight, about 30 seconds. Chapman comes in later, 30 seconds later, Chapman comes in and goes, "I will speak to you all at a later date."
Yeah, I remember I was so mad. I was so angry.
Um, I'm going to make sense of this pick, and I will speak to you all later. See you later. And
Yeah, I had to go be with my Falcons people on that one. I couldn't be in mixed company, which is normal for a Falcons fan. So anyway,
that's fine.
what do you got for us?
Well, I say, but other than that, I think hopefully we'll try and do next if we can, if it's possible. Look, Discord voice chats, they're a thing, and it'd be just us rather than a public forum, like Twitter, where we're doing everything in front of the public eye. We could just be part of our little cohort of people, which would be really nice to be fair.
Yeah.
As far as news goes, there's not an awful lot to talk about. Some of it does pertain to the draft, which we're going to talk a little bit about, obviously, with that coming up. Um, did you have anything that specifically wasn't necessarily draft related that you wanted to bring up? Because I'm still looking.
Should I bring up the thing I texted you about, or should I save that?
Yes,
Okay.
please.
Obviously there was a free agent signing over the weekend. I don't know. I think maybe it had on Thursday or Friday. I can't really remember. All the days run together now. Joe Flacco went to the Cleveland Browns for a $3 million deal. He reunites with the team they took to the playoffs 2 years ago. Now with Kenny Pickett, uh, are they done quarterback shopping? I don't know, but it makes it way least likely to that they would be trading for, say, a veteran quarterback that might be on the market sitting with another team. And if that's the truth, then I also think more than likely, at least at number two, I don't think they will be going Shador Sanders, at least from what I'm understanding, and which I think will make Ollie very happy.
Yeah,
In fact, I think the Travis Hunter is now the betting odds favorite to go to the Browns, which I think, with their defense and everything, I think that would be a great pick for them. I mean, obviously, I think Travis Hunter is a really interesting pick, no matter. So anyway, for the quarterback carousel now, so we've got the Steelers still need someone, but everyone just expects Aaron Rodgers to sign
yeah.
come come summer whenever he does whatever he does and is ready. And that will be that. And then the Falcons will be hoping and waiting to see if there is an injury in training camp to make a sweetheart deal with someone to get offload Kirk Cousins, or it looks like Kirk Cousins will be the most expensive backup in the history of the NFL this year, which to be fair, I thought it was a fine gamble regardless. I did, it's not the same thing as what happened with Russell Wilson, where the entire team couldn't stand him and they owed him 65 million.
Yeah.
It's not ideal, but it is what it is. And I'd rather just have him on the team and have a capable backup to Michael Penix, who's going to be starting his first full year, And but we'll see. We'll see. But that is how the world turns. Joe Flacco reuniting with the Cleveland Browns. I almost just spilt this entire water all over my computer. That would have been great.
It's that's I too get that excited about Joe Flacco, so it's okay. I fully understand.
Yeah.
No, it's an interesting one, and I think I saw one of the mentions from Ollie about it in the week. Who has I spoke to Ollie today, by the way. He's definitely said he's definitely going to be back before the draft, which means next week. But Ollie will definitely be back, which is nice. But I did see him mention that the week. It's a really nice thing. The locker room really liked Joe Flacco at the
Yep.
time. It seems like a really nice, wholesome bring in for the Browns. Um, doesn't necessarily, again, in all his words, don't seem to shift the needle. It doesn't get
No.
everybody up off the feet and go, yes, we've got Joe Flacco, but it's a nice transaction for them. It helps them. It's just not pretty or it's just not flashy. Um,
You know what? I think my view of it is too. If I'm a Browns fan, we know this Deshaun Watson thing is going to hang over like just the contract. I
yeah,
think this is another big year of it, and I think there's one more next year, but I think it's a little. I think they were able to restructure so it's sort of spread out. But next year you cut him, and then you're on to a new life. So why not get one of the best players in the draft? Keep loading up and then get yourself ready for hopefully getting, there's free agent quarterbacks every year that have some meaning, or you're drafting. You're drafting somebody next year, which, every year we go, next year's quarterback class will be better than this year's. But I think that's going to be the truth of it, probably for them. So, you know, you be competitive. Who knows? You might be a wild card team like you were 2 years ago. You mesh it together. Stefanski has proven that he can do that. And you can win. You can win with mediocre when you have a good coach and you have a
yeah,
solid team, which they do. I think people always think the Browns are like way more talent deficient than they actually are. They just have been snake bitten on offense for
yeah,
so long, but they've got a decent team and they've got the right head coach. So, uh, you know, they're telling you what they're going to do. They're not going to do some stupid like, trade for Kirk Cousins probably. Maybe they will, but I doubt they will. And because they're not desperate, and that's a smart word to be. When you're not desperate, you don't have to do bad things. So
yeah. And every negotiation table that you then sit at leaves you in a better position at that negotiation table anyway. And I know there's a couple of bits that you've mentioned here. Now, certain teams with brand new head coaches have now had their first day of off-season camps. I know Dallas and the no, the Bears didn't go back today. I think it was Dallas and the Jaguars went back today, the
yeah,
14th. I know that the Bears and a couple others, the
I would
Patriots,
assume the Raiders should probably be reporting soon.
uh, the Jets, the Jets were last week. Saints were today.
Right.
Patriots last week. Yeah, think three last week, three this week. Um,
Can you
and
remind me who's the Saints? Who's the Saints coach now? I can't even remember.
Kellen Moore
That's right.
came up from the
That's right.
Eagles.
Yes, yeah, yeah.
Um,
That's right.
it that all got kind of lost, I think, in the whole
It
Eagles
did.
winning the Super Bowl, and
Yeah,
everyone was too busy dissecting what the Chiefs were doing. And no, I love you, Mrs. Fletch, but no one really gave two hoots what the Saints were doing anyway. So,
yeah,
um, I think there were more, yeah. So, but I do believe there was a particular person in Dallas today who people weren't sure whether he was going to turn up or not.
yeah.
Micah
Uh,
Parsons,
and he did.
which
Oh,
does was
dude, go ahead.
I say does that show good signs for his
Yeah,
future in
because he's going to
Dallas?
get paid. Because if you play for the Dallas Cowboys, they like to pay their star players the max amount of money at the last minute that they can. So yeah, he's going to get paid. He is going to get paid because he is a star and he is one of the best defensive players in the league. And Jerry Jones never is rushed to do anything. So good for him for showing up. There is something that happened that we didn't get to talk about that I should have brought up, which was actually a very big thing between I think it happened after our recording from last week to this, which is very monumentous to me.
Go on.
Uh, the greatest wide receiver of his generation
Yes, yes,
retired, Mr. Julio Jones.
Mr.
And what was
Julio.
super insulting is because he's number 11, like Larry Fitzgerald, several publications put up pictures of Larry Fitzgerald. So Julio Jones is so this is weird. Julio Jones is my favorite. I forgot how to say this. He is my favorite football player, I think, of all time. He's not my favorite Falcon because that's actually Matt Ryan, but he is my favorite football player just because I want one A and one B. But
Yeah,
being able to watch Julio for 10 years is amazing. The Falcons traded up multiple picks to the Cleveland Browns, funny enough, to get him, and he was the thing that got us over the hump. I got to watch him in two NFC Championship games. One we lost, one we won. And it was awesome, man. I think probably I have five Matt Ryan jerseys, and I think I have three Julio Jones jerseys. But he'll be a first ballot Hall of Famer. Go look at his stats. And
yeah,
had we kicked a field goal in that fourth quarter of the Super Bowl, that catch that he made actually to get the chains down to where they would have gone would have been one of the greatest catches in Super Bowl history. If you go watch the highlights of Julio Jones in that Super Bowl, it's pretty incredible, but it obviously gets lost because they didn't win.
yeah.
So anyway, Julio Jones retired on 404 day. I can't believe we didn't bring that up last week. But anyway, so
No, and I wanna put out there as well, just saying that Julio Jones had, I think the first proper season I watched was the season where he was injured. So that would be like his third, fourth year. But I was really, really into it that year where he put up the 1,600 yard season. So, and I think players like Julio Jones, no matter what team you support, particularly if you're early days into a sport, or you can kind of treat it
yeah,
as like when you were a kid in a way as well, because as a kid when you're growing up watching a sport, for me, someone like Julio Jones, he stands there with players like Cam Newton, um, who are players that whether they play for your team or not, you loved watching them play, and they just brought an energy to the game, and they just played the game in a certain way that just made you kind of go, "Wow, this is." Play people like that are why I love the sport, and Julio Jones, I can only say from, well, I can't speak on anybody else's experiences, but I can just say that in early days of watching the sport, I don't think, yeah, players like Julio Jones, very, very important in getting a lot of people to kind of fall in love with football.
where you name two guys who were physically both like beast in terms of like their position. I mean, Julio Jones was not just big, but he also was fast. He also could move like none other. Nick Saban said he was at the time his I think the best player he ever coached at Alabama. Anyway, yeah, Julio's amazing. He had a 300 yard. He had two 300-yard games, which is insane. He averaged almost 100 yards a game for the majority of his career until later years when he went to, the Titans, then the Bucks, then the Eagles, I think and then
Yep.
it sucks that he didn't stay on the Eagles one more year because he would have gotten that ring finally, which I wish he had
Yeah.
gotten. Oh well. But anyway, goodbye, Julio Jones. Look forward to seeing you in the Hall of Fame in 5 years.
Yep. I mean
And
that's a given,
yeah,
isn't it?
so
It's
anyway,
um
so yeah,
yeah.
thanks.
So
I can't believe
yeah.
I forgot that, by the way.
No, it's fine. I think especially if it's one of those weird things. So if it happens, especially on a Monday or early on a
Yeah,
Tuesday,
yeah.
it just gets lost by the time kind of putting some of those things together at the weekend for episodes, and it's one of those things that kind of gets lost in that day's cycle, I think, of post episode and whatnot. But yeah, definitely in 5 years, we're looking forward to watching him get his gold jacket. Sorry, not yellow jacket. Um, Mrs. Fletcher's been watching something called Yellow Jackets, and just that phrase is stuck in my head in
Oh,
so
I'm
many.
familiar.
Um,
Yeah.
so with that, I want to say one of the other pieces of news that we've seen this week is also has relation to the NFC South, but it's a player that's currently in the NFC South, and that is Derek Carr.
Yep.
It's been revealed that he himself is struggling now with a shoulder injury, which is likely to keep him out for the vast majority of 2025. And I think that the way this kind of sneaks into draft talk and a bit more on the draft, I mentioned last week that potentially Shadar Sand the Saints could be someone who may be sneaky looking at someone like Shadar Sanders at 9 with the news about Derek Carr likely missing most of 2024. Do you think in any way, shape, or form that this could mean that, well, the Saints might take a bit more of a serious look at someone like Shadar Sanders?
Yes, I think they have to now because so let me read this. After restructuring, okay, so they obviously didn't know. I don't think anyone knew this injury would be excuse me would be as bad as it was. So um, why can't the Saints cut him? Just reading here now. After restructuring his contract in early March, the Saints would incur a 20.4 million dead cap hit if they release him after June 1st. After counting their draft picks, they have exactly 20.5 million in effective cap space. So the New Orleans is in such a bad place cap wise. If they cut him, they wouldn't be able to even pay their rookies. Also, if they cut him, his dead cap hit in 2026 is 59.6 million. However, his cap number right now for 2026, if he's on the roster, is 70 million. So they're in some bad shape. They're probably going to have to really cut some players next year anyway. But the best way to get your cap number down is obviously to have a rookie quarterback. So they're going to have to shed a lot of skin next year. So I would definitely say they will be actively trying to get Shador because I think that's their lottery ticket for right now, in my opinion.
And I think the one thing, and again, I said I've tried to speak about this in a way on the college football pod as well. So I completely agree. I don't think realistically the Saints have changed what they're doing. I think sometimes we like to think that what we think happens in I mean, like, well, sorry, the Falcons last year would actually be a prime example of what we think's going on versus what's actually going on. And as you said last year, the Penix pick, we thought at the time that's just changed the whole draft. And realistically, it hasn't. Teams know what they're doing, they know where they're going. And Michael Penix Jr. being taken so early on doesn't necessarily change that what the next few teams are going to do because none of those other teams were in for a quarterback until it got to the Denver Broncos with Bo Nix, and they did what they did. So as much as I don't tend to think that the Bears are going to be particularly affected, they've got Caleb Williams, and then after that you've got the 49ers and you've got the Dallas Cowboys, the Dolphins. Like, none of those are affected necessarily by that pick, but someone who I do think may be affected by the pick and
Raiders.
how. But was it not necessarily the Raiders because the Raiders are before that?
Yeah, that's what I was thinking though.
Oh yeah, but I'm thinking behind the Saints at 9, the way that I've kind of said before about how one you do pull that pin and somewhere down the line it does cause that collateral damage effect is the Pittsburgh Steelers who were heavily linked with taking him at 2021. Now, as we said, there's the problem with Aaron Rodgers and will he sign, won't he sign? Yes, he'll probably sign, but there's still that thing where he hasn't. What's going on with him? If you're, I'm not saying if you're Mike Tomlin, but if you're at the Steelers and you're thinking, okay, we felt like a week ago we had Shador Sanders going to happily fall to us on a plate at 21. This might not be the case anymore. What do you do? Because Aaron Rodgers isn't in the building yet, and right now, is it Kenny Pickett? Is your not Kenny Pickett anymore because he's gone? Who's what do you do if
You trade for Kirk Cousins. I don't know what you do, but I'd also mention the fact that New Orleans has had dinner with Ole Miss's Jackson Dart. They had a top 30 visit with Texans quarterback Q Nears. Syracuse's Kyle McCord. They had a private workout. They had a private workout with Jalen Monroe, and also they had a top 30 visit with Tyler Slav. So it's actually not necessarily guaranteed. I'd also say it points the year before. Quentin Ewers and Jalen Monroe look like first round draft
yeah?
picks in and I think, they had years that, not necessarily bad, but not great years to put them in the position. So I think somebody's going to talk themselves into a couple of those quarterbacks as well. I don't know if that's, if Kellen Moore is going to do that or not, but we'll see. Everything I look, I didn't get to. I'll be honest with you, I didn't watch a ton of Shedeur Sanders this year. I think I watched more games last year. And from what I understand, it's like his ceiling is like a Kirk Cousins. Like he does certain things really well when he's in the right system, whatever. So, and I from what I understand with Kellen Moore too, is like he's very much like it's Hurts is a unique talent in terms of his running and his ability, but they don't ask him to do a lot of stuff that say like a Patrick Mahomes, a Lamar James, or Josh Allen does, and that's not to take away from Hurts. He's a Super Bowl winning quarterback now, but you know what I mean. So
Yeah.
I'm interested to see if maybe that's kind of good system for him, but we'll see. The thing that stinks is for some of us who are looking for defensive players, the more that quarterback would fall down, the better for us. But you know,
Yeah.
I'm
And
thinking selfishly.
but it's one of those as well, though, for me. Like, I watched a fair bit of Shadar Sanders this year. I watched a few Colorado games, but primarily I was watching Travis Hunter. I'm not going to lie. I really, well, I've had no real qualms about him over the last few months. I've absolutely loved watching him all year. Him and Ashton Genty, I watched so much of where I could. But I did watch just through collateral there. You can't watch Travis Hunter's offensive snaps without watching Shadar Sanders. Didn't Was a bit punished, I think, earlier in the year because of a bad O line. It was a really horrible leaky O line. And they had no run game in Colorado for the first 5 or 6 games of the season because they were getting like 5-10 yards a game just because they couldn't the O line was that bad. Some of the things though, like I said, I was impressed with a lot of the things that he was doing. Someone made the comp for him the other week, and I laughed and then went, "Oh wait, yeah, that makes sense." It was Teddy Bridgewater, and most people remember Teddy Bridgewater for the end of career, always injured, ended up being bouncing around. But people forget that early years Teddy Bridgewater was really good and did a lot of things very, very well. And he was no slouch at QB. Early Teddy Bridgewater was a very, very good quarterback. And I get it. They do have a lot of the similar things going on. So I don't know. Um, I do think it's that whole hedging your bets for
Yeah.
tomorrow.
Yeah. Well, here, look, if the Saints don't take him at first, then they're going to take a quarterback probably in the second round, second or third round. And look, there are many quarterbacks playing right now in the NFL who are taken in those rounds that are started. Dak Prescott comes to mind. Kirk Cousins comes to mind. Um, you know, it doesn't always happen. And it's the reason why we see more quarterbacks flame out and be successful in the first round is because it's such a commodity and they mostly go. I mean, look, last year we had 6 go in the first round for the first time ever, in the
Yeah,
first 8 picks, right? Well, no, excuse me, 6 in the first 12 picks. Sorry.
yeah,
I think that's right. Um, so, we'll see. I mean, the Saints are taking a quarterback. I mean, that's just what we know. So they have to. But their cap is a mess, man. But and every year we say that, but it feels like that it really is coming to a place where they're going to lose, Olave. I think they're going to have to figure out how to play Olave. They're going to have to, there's a lot there. So it'll be, I obviously have a vested interest in them being a mess, so that makes me happy. But it'll be interesting. Also, probably looks like if Derek Carr can't make it back on the field this year, he might be done. He might be done with the Saints at least. So it'll be interesting. So he'll be on the market maybe potentially next year. But
yeah.
anywho,
It,
yeah,
it's
go
an
ahead.
interesting one. It is an interesting one. And it kind of puts me on then to let's just say you are the Saints, and let's just say you don't take Shador Sanders at pick number 9, and you say let's just see what happens over the next few picks, right?
Yeah,
Let's
yeah.
see if I mean there's got
Do
to be
you,
someone who
you
does.
can you can yeah, you can trade 2 twos and get up and maybe get him in right before. I mean, I don't know if the Steelers are going to draft him, but maybe. I mean,
I
maybe,
mean,
maybe.
let's. I'm gonna go off the. I'm gonna go off the Steelers do draft him.
Mm.
Or the Steelers, that's the Steelers' pick if he's there. But I'm looking here now when I'm thinking like there could be, you don't know what could go on in those next few picks. What if for whatever reason, some of these are out there hypotheticals. I get it, but what if Mike McDaniel says, actually, do you know what? I think Tua might not be the answer next year. I think we need to get someone in right now to be for next year with Tua. Or what if someone, oh yeah, what if by the time it gets to the Steelers picking, or even
I
you,
I feel like Mike McDaniel's his job is too much on the line this year for him to be messing around with trying to get a first round, like be thinking about tomorrow. I think
I
he's
say,
got
it's an out there hypothetical that I've just put. Oh, the Colts do that thing where they go, actually, do you know what? We don't like Anthony Richardson, and because there's been some, I mean, very little, but there's been a little bit of that kind of talk. There are some teams in that back end of the draft, if you think, okay, someone might end up going early in the second, whether it's Will Howard that you've got your eye on, whether it's Jackson Dart, whether it's Jalen Milrow, I've heard that there are a couple of teams out there who really, really like what Jalen Milrow can be in the NFL with the appropriate coaching. Um, the Browns apparently, Kevin Stefanski has fallen in love with Jalen Milrow, if you believe certain reports that have come out, and someone you can wait for. But if you've got an idea of someone you want, if you're the Saints and maybe it's not Shador Sanders, but you think you can get someone later, as you've said, what's the potential for jumping back up in the very end of the first round and taking and kind of just nicking that last quarterback who is definitely going to go early in the second. And I'm looking at the back here, and I think you've got the last eight picks, which are the Texans, the Rams, the Ravens, the Lions, the Commanders, the Bills, the Chiefs, the Eagles. Out of those, would you see any of them potentially saying, do you know what? I'd be okay with that. I'm happy not picking today on this Thursday. You come up and get in. We'll take some more day two picks or day three picks.
well, it just depends. I think the need would need to be in the defensive side of the ball for those teams to do that because that's where the bulk of this draft is in the first 100 picks. And then yeah, maybe. I don't know. I almost could see, is it crazy to think the Rams might could take him if he falls that day? I mean, dude, it's not like Stafford's going to be around for
Yeah.
eons, but I don't know. It just depends on where people have graded him. Look, here's the thing. If he falls out of the top 10, I think it's going to be a long day for him.
Yeah.
So we'll see. Yeah. Anyway,
I'm
it's
kind
going to be
of,
fun. That's what makes this is
yeah.
look, I mean, this is the biggest storyline of the draft. Where does Shador go? That I mean, it is. And that's Dion's got to be happy because that's the I mean, unless he, falls it. But um
I think what I'm trying to get, I mean, there was a little bit more, I think, meat in what I was trying to get to be fair
sorry.
with it. No, 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 it's fine because I've tried to, I did try to do a little bit of a dance around it and see if I could kind of work it in this way. But I agree with you.
No, you're trying to see if somebody will trade up back into the first round, like, a la, what was it? The Ravens, or was it, yeah, the Ravens came up and got Lamar, or like, is it maybe the Browns come back and get him? Like, or maybe, I don't know. I just feel like though those teams in the back half, if he gets past, I don't know. I don't think he's a talent that should go past like the early 20s though.
No.
So.
And I think what I'm more looking at here is what are the trades that could happen? Because this is still, by the way, with 10 days to go until the NFL draft, we still have a perfect first round. Every single team has one pick, and it's where it should be in relation to where they finished in the NFL last season. There are no swapped picks in the first round. I think
For
it was the
now.
first time, yeah, for now, but I think at the time of the season finishing, it was the first time in so many years where all the picks were still in order. And with 10 days to go until the draft, this has to be like I don't want to know how far back you got to go to still have a perfect draft order in place as it stands. I don't, does it stay that way going into in 10 days? And where are those trades likely to happen for you? I think is more where I'm at. I'm just going to throw it out there as well that if you're looking to trade into the back end of the first round, I think you look at certain teams that have a history of wanting those picks or hitting on those picks a bit better than others in the day two, day three. So your LA Rams, they have a history of hitting on day two, day three picks and not picking in the first round. The Lions would potentially be interested in obtaining a couple more day two, day three. And as you've said, the defensive side of the ball is probably where the Lions want to work on this year. And that's just at the back end of the first round. Do you see any changes at the top half, maybe even in the top 10?
It just depends, I guess, to your point, if let's say the Steelers, uh, man, or man, that's really it, man. And I don't think the Steelers, it's just not like them to trade up, so I really don't. Um, and it's a bummer too because the Falcons are right in that weird spot where they're a perfect trade down candidate, but there's just no, I just don't see Shador getting down to there. And what stinks is if he goes early, then that means, uh, you know, there's going to be a run on these edge players, and the Falcons, of course, will probably just take the best cornerback on the daggone market on the daggone. Anyway, sorry, I'm going to make it all that, but I don't know. We'll see. I mean, if there's going to be any trades, here are the people I think would trade. Uh, I can't see the Jets trading because I mean, there's still a lot of really potentially that 8 pick right before the New Orleans Saints pick. If everybody thinks they're going to take Shador and somebody really wants them, that would be it. After that, there's no blue chip talents. I don't think that you're trading up for unless it's like one of those you trade up, you flip a spot or you flip 2 spots or something.
Yeah,
Because it doesn't feel like I think also from everything I understand, because this draft doesn't have as many blue chip players and there is a lot of good defensive talent that you can get that all kind of feels, you're making your most educated bet. The trading will not be very lucrative, obviously too, because there's not enough quarterbacks in there. So it's
yeah,
like, so I think you take your first round pick and then you look to trade day two, hopefully maybe see if you can pick up another third or something like that or a fourth rounder. Because the Falcons, like again, my team needs more picks. So
yeah. Well,
um, I think a team like something like you, if at 28 in those last like 4 spots, if somebody wants to flip you a third rounder just to go back the beginning of the second round, like Cleveland or blah blah blah, of course, because
oh
you're
yeah,
basically yeah, you're basically getting you get 2 second rounders and then so that to me feels like where that could potentially happen there, but
yeah.
we'll see.
Well, I
Parti
wanted to ask you about the Falcons, to be fair, in those picks, because
uh,
looking at, I mean, I had a look before, I got it back up now, at Sharp Football Analysis, and
yep.
I
I
know that
love I love Warren Sharp. Great guy.
as what he's put, the Falcons have the 29th most draft capital in this year's draft. 5 picks, three in the first 4 rounds, and then two seventh rounders. That's given where you probably like to see the Falcons go and what you'd like to see the Falcons do, that's not enough. Could the Falcons be a potential option for trading back? And given some of the how open, well, just how much defensive talent is available throughout those first 100 picks, maybe utilizing that a little bit.
Yeah, I think here's the thing. I'm sure they've got their board set. And I think barring, you know, Jelon Walker falling to them at 15, perhaps Mikael Williams. I think if Mike Green's there, he's the other third one, which he should be there. But if somebody's willing to give you a second round pick or even maybe potentially a third round pick, it depends, to flip a couple of spots because there's fewer offensive tackles, fewer wide receivers in this first round that are worth it. If you can get that, they absolutely should take it, but they need to be certain, like hey, what we're giving up is, I wouldn't do it just to do it. But what I'd rather see them do, stick at 15, take the best defensive player that makes sense. Hopefully it's an edge rusher, and then see what you can trade back maybe in that the second round. I think will be a lot more trades because it's all like once you get sort of in that second, third round, it's the like you said, the quality of players all sort of evens out. So it's more of who do you like the best? Who do your scouting team and coaches think is the best player? So some people get real excited about somebody and they'll be like, this guy's gonna be, blah blah blah. So,
Yeah.
if you can I would rather see them move back in the second round, again, depending on who's there, and then maybe recoup that third round pick that we gave away for Matthew Judon last year.
Yeah. I said that about the Lions though as well. So just that
Yeah.
potentially the Lions trading back. And we've got 7 picks in the draft. 2 of those are from Tampa Bay and Dallas. That's the sixth and early seventh. And also one of those is a comp pick in the third round for Aaron Glenn. So I also Brad Holmes has shown to be someone who's willing to go. No, our guy's
Ah,
right there. Our guy is 5 picks away, but someone else 3 picks away. They're after him, and so we'll go and get it, and we'll make those phone calls. So I do see that being a thing. I, but similar to the way you look at the Falcons, I don't see there being once you get past a certain point, I don't see there being any trades for more than say 5 picks in advance. You're not gonna get someone who jumps and really wants to make that leap. You're gonna get someone who just kind of I don't know, Minnesota really like someone, but they know that Green Bay really like him, so they're going to go quickly flip over with the Chargers and
yeah.
jump 2 spots, maybe 3 spots. Um, what is an example? And kind of one of the things that I kind of wanted to point to was, and I want to ask you about actually, to kind of start to wrap up the episode, given how long we've been on for, and go spend the rest of our Mondays. You have had years of your life in the States watching the draft. You've been in LA, so it's even started in earlier for you and finished a bit earlier for you.
I used to go to New York when it was in New York
Oh, you
every
did.
single
You
year.
did.
Yeah, I've told you tales of old time. Yes,
Um,
I was
but
in New York the Aaron Rodgers draft, which was
yes. And
so. I'm sorry, I'm interrupting your
no, you're
awesome
fine.
question.
So instead of the draft starting at 1 in the morning for you, it
Oh,
started at 8 p.m. for you, or no, that we've known people like Sam have been fine for years because he doesn't have to do it on the Thursday night. Hadn't had to do it on the Thursday night and be up early on the Friday. He's just had to. The Thursday hasn't existed for him with the Rams for so long. But I'm looking at myself. I'm looking at myself here at the Lions at 28. Now I'm normally one of those people who happily in bed by 1:30 because my team's picked. But we aren't one of those teams anymore. We're one of those teams that's 3:30 in the morning. I'm going, please don't trade out of the first round. Please, it's 3:30 in the morning. I've stayed up this late. Please don't do it. Um, how much of a pain this is for UK fans who do want to stay up and watch the draft and your team's picking late. I remember a couple of years ago when the Lions traded back up and got Jameer Gibbs, and how I think I got to pick 10 just to pick 11, and I was like, well, we picked now. I'm done for the night. And just as I went, it was one of those weird moments. Just as I went to turn off the TV, it was like, trade, the Lions are on the clock. And I was like, whoa, whoa, whoa. I'm staying up now. I'm here. Well, it wouldn't have been that one. It would have been the Jameson Williams draft, not the Jameer Gibbs one, because we traded back first anyway. Um, Something similar happened. I was close to happening with Jack Campbell. I was getting ready to turn everything off. Anyway, how is this comparing to you now, a draft, having to stay up so late? Or, well, being up so late, and do you get a bit twitchy hoping the Falcons don't trade back because of just the implications of how late you'll then be up?
no. Mainly because the Falcons picked eight for like 4 years in a row. No, they picked eight 3 years in a row first. But no, great question. Um, well, okay, let's talk back a little bit. So I grew up during the age where the draft was all on one day. and it was
Right.
awesome because it was your Saturday, right? You'd wake up and it would start at noon. I believe it started around noonish, maybe. And you just put it on ESPN. And in your 20s, you would just get beer and people would come over and you'd watch like the first two rounds together. And then you go to the bar at some point and you'd be out watching it. And that was the glory days. Then, them making it a televised event for these 3 days, while great for them because they make more money off of being a TV event, it definitely was so much better. Now, that's not true because the live event thing they do now is really great and they do all that stuff. But,
And they
and
take you
that's
around
not one of those.
country and
Yeah, I think that's cool. Like, but I promise you, like, when it was on one day, it was
yeah.
awesome. 'Cause it was like it was Christmas. It was just like the whole day. So and like you only had to, but anyway, to answer your question, the Falcons pick usually in the first couple of hours. So I haven't had to be like I usually go to bed after that. Maybe would stay up for the top 10. This year, obviously, we're picking in the middle of the pack. So I'll be up a little late. I would say this, if I was a team, if I was a fan of a team, and I think this is getting to your question, which I know you won't do because if you everybody that listens to Heart on the Line is crazy hardcore fans, but
Yep.
if I was picking 28, I'd either do two things. I would set an alarm and wake up at like 3 and just watch my pick, or I would wait and just figure it out the next morning because you're probably getting something that's not that sexy at 28, 29 and then use Friday night as my pass card to stay up late because second round, third round on Friday or on the Friday is or
Yeah.
I guess it's just the second round, but is much sexier to me because it's much more fun and you don't have work the next day. That's not what you wanted to hear, is it?
No, I mean, I wanted to hear what you truly your experience. That so if that's your experience, that's what I wanted to hear. What I think, no, what I'm looking at and going is how different lives we lead as married men. Um, and how two marriages are never the same.
But we're also way different parts of our lives too.
That's true. That is also very true. Um, but I was kind of looking when you said like the past to stay up late is like that's not a thing that exists.
Oh, I could stay up late every night if I wanted to. I
Yeah,
just don't. It's more of the pain of uh it takes me like 2 days to sort of get back in. I mean, like
yeah.
I usually stay up late on Friday and Saturday night, no matter. So, but
Um,
it's usually the work thing. But yeah.
okay. Well, there was me, and I am so I want to go public say I apologize for basically slandering early in there, and
Oh no, no, no. We
I'm
know
very
you wouldn't do that. You don't have the you don't have the go. We would never slander Mrs. Fletch nor Arlene on this
nope.
podcast.
No, oh no, you're right. You can say I don't
But
have the
she's actually
balls
just
to do
Mrs.
that.
Maddox now, so we can just call her Mrs. Maddox.
Yes, Mrs. Maddox. So, but no, you can say it outright. I don't have the balls to do it. That's fine. I don't. It's call it how it is. But no, it's one of those. So I
So I got a great into the well, here's what I'd say. Do whatever makes you happy. If you want to stay up and you're excited like a kid on candy, which usually I am, do it. But I feel like if you're a team that's, went far in the playoffs this year and you can and you're not quite as tuned into wanting to like I think it's cool to watch the first hour, take a nap for a couple hours, come back to it, especially if you got to work the next day because we don't, free passes. But it stinks that it's not this weekend over Easter weekend, so you just
yes.
have the but I got a great question for you.
Go on.
Okay. So this is the end of the episode. We have anything else we need
Oh,
to cover?
hang on. So yeah, I want to say just on Easter weekend, I am grateful because I have my daughter this weekend, which means that draft weekend I have no childcare commitments.
There you go.
Which is the way of saying I do have a pass, but it's not a pass because I would still stay up and do it. It just means that an 8-year-old is not dragging me around something like a trampoline park and going like, wake up, and having to drag myself around through that.
Remind me when we get off the pod. We need to talk about something really quick. Just remind me.
Okay.
That is good. That's what I'm saying too. It's not the pass. If I go upstairs right now and tell Erlene I'm staying up till 2 playing Jedi Survivor, she'd probably go, "That's awesome. Please do that." If it would just be tomorrow, I'd look like this. So, all right. So, you may or may not have heard, but there was a historic event today. Do you know about it?
Right off the top of my head, I can't think of the specific historic event.
Well, we sent Katy Perry
Yes,
and a group of women into space.
yes. In fact, no. When Mrs. Fletch was driving me, well, we were in the car when I was halfway on way to. That was on the news thing this morning with Jeff Bezos's blue something.
Yes, and I believe his girlfriend went with them, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes, his fiance.
Blue Origin, yes,
Yes.
Blue Origin. So one, two, they're already back. One, two, three, four, five, six. So I think it was the first all-female uh, flight into space. So six women in space. I won't make you name six, but if you were going to go to space and you had to take an all NFL team from any era, any day, any time, who would be your five crew member, starting with Barry Sanders? I'm sure.
I mean, yeah, well, yeah. So just the stories alone with Barry Sanders. I mean, it's only 11 minutes, which is really sad, so you don't get a lot of time.
How
I
about
feel
this? How about this? You could pick one from the 2020s,
right.
one from the 2010s, one from the
Okay.
2000s, one from the 90s, and then Barry Sanders can be your,
Yeah.
well, he was
Um.
90s, so he could be your
Okay. Okay, wild card. Use him as a
yeah,
wild card.
you have your wild card.
Um. Actually, do you know what? It's going to sound like a bit of a cop out, but just knowing how much fun you would have throughout the whole thing, he'd either be so fun during this whole trip, or it'd be the thing where he's the worst and he's throwing up in the bag. Pat McAfee.
Okay. I didn't think that's where you were going with that,
That
but that makes
you would
sense.
either have a really good, you'd have everyone jacked up, and you'd be all having a
I think
great
he would be a
laugh.
good time. I think he would probably be fun.
I'm gonna say you've either got that, or he is that guy who's great, but when you get him on a roller coaster, he's
I think
plays
he'd be
like
fun, but he also like if it's the thing where you get stuck in space, then you're like, oh, that's the guy I wish we had not brought. Like
yeah,
you'd immediately become that guy.
yeah. So
Anyway, all right.
successful mission, Pat
Sa
McAfee. Um,
yeah. Sanders, McAfee. Okay, that's two. McAfee was early 2000s, right?
yeah,
Let's give him early 2000s. So you get somebody playing today, you get somebody from the 2010s ish,
the
and then
2010s. I'll go Jason Kelsey.
okay.
Uh, the 2020s. I'm trying to think if he would make it just a fun occasion. Um,
Yeah, that's what I was trying to think of.
it's a bit of a left field question as well.
You
No,
can also do you can also do coaches if you want if
okay,
you want to,
coaches.
but you can only have one coach.
Again, do it.
I feel like you've got your statesman Barry Sanders, you got your fun time guy, you got Jason Kelsey, also fun time guy, which that might be too much alchemy there, but that's just my opinion. All right, so you
Too
got two
much
more
fun.
players.
Um, I was
It's a
gonna
lot
say,
of talking between Kelsey and McAfee, I'm just thinking, and a lot of
yeah.
beer too.
Um, Sean McVay.
That's who I would pick.
Sean McVay.
Because I feel like if something went wrong, he can probably help us fix it.
Yeah, but also if
I read
again,
this manual last night, dude. Okay, and now I just need somebody pre 2000s. They could be 2000 or below, someone in the 90s. I didn't think you would have to think this hard.
can I go with Peyton Manning?
Yes, drafted in 1998. It counts.
I'm going with Peyton Manning.
But I would rather hang out with 2025 Peyton Manning than 1998 Peyton Manning.
I mean,
But
that's a fair point. Um,
you did well. That's good.
I think that if you ask me in an hour, you'll get a text going, "Hang on, all five of them? No, these are the ones I want now." Who would you take?
Oh, I didn't think you were going to turn it around on me.
You can't hit me with that and expect it not to.
Okay, but definitely my classic player would be Dion,
Dion.
just because I was a kid. I mean, that's my
So that's your
current
90s guy.
play. Yeah, well,
Yeah.
80s, 90s, 89 draft. My class 88 draft actually. 89 or 88.
Yeah, okay, okay. That's right. He's your Barry Sanders.
They were peers. They played at the same time. My current player, man, that's hard. It's going to be Joe Burrow for sure. Joe Burrow.
Hmm.
Uh, my 20, I would take, I probably got to throw Matt Ryan in there because I just think Matt Ryan's a good hang. He seems cool. I do need a fun guy, and I have thought about Jason Kelsey, but I'm going to take Matt Ryan over Kelsey. Then I would probably take. Oh, I know who I'll take. My fun guy would be, and this is like he was Pat McAfee before Pat McAfee was Pat McAfee, which is Jeremy Shockey.
Right.
Just because he's going to come in and be the wild man. And I actually saw him one time in Miami, and he gave me a nod because I knew who he was, and he was with a hot woman, and I was like, Jeremy Shockey. Uh, Two-time Super Bowl winner too, even though he's a Saint. So Mrs. Fletch will like that. Um, and then what am I missing? A 90s player?
Yes.
Well, pretty like everything that's happened in the last 20 years, it would have been Brett Favre, but absolutely not. I'm gonna go, man, who's a 90s player? I'm gonna go to no. I was gonna say Terrell Davis, but no. Uh Man, trying to think. Who would I pick? Who would I pick from the 90s? Um, Steve Young, no. Montana, no. Jimmy Johnson.
Jimmy Johnson. Okay.
But I want 90s era Jimmy Johnson, not old 80-year-old Jimmy Johnson today. So,
Okay. Can I add one person else who I've just thought of, and he wouldn't come under, I don't think, any of those. He's a coach,
all
but
right.
he doesn't come under a current coach.
Okay.
If I were to have a legacy person out of all time, off the
Joe,
top of my head, John Madden.
yeah, he would have been a good hang. That's a good shout. I should have thought of that.
If you again a legacy, someone who you can kind of, I
Yeah,
think
but
John Madden would have been a
yeah,
lot of
but
fun.
you don't want Coach Madden. You want
TV
broadcaster,
Madden,
and you want TV Madden for sure.
Thanksgiving Madden.
Yeah, that's I'm ashamed I didn't think about that.
Um,
I
but
need
that
to go back and really think about 90s because I was trying to think of like, to be fair, you're right. I mean, Dion is more of a 90s player than he is an 80s player, but I cheated a little bit there. Mike, I was trying to think of running backs because like 90s was like the running, it's like Emmitt Smith, he always kind of bored me. I love Barry Sanders.
okay, but Barry Sanders was lovely, but he's the guy who just everybody's calm.
Yeah.
He's the guy he's the guy that being
Oh,
there.
Reggie White would have been a 90s player.
Shannon Sharp was in my head as
Shannon
well.
Sharp. Yeah, but I mean, he was really famous, but he wasn't like famous like he is today. I mean, in the as a player. I mean, dude, he was a household name. Don't get me wrong. Like he
Yeah.
was one of the few tight ends that people knew. I'm trying to think I wanted to pick a wide receiver because it's just like 90s had the like, let's see. I know you got to go.
Um,
Uh,
yeah.
I'm surprised you didn't pick Calvin Johnson, to be honest with
Kind of same. I know that if everyone's nervous, Calvin's bringing the weed.
you.
So he's gonna have everyone nice and
Chris
calm.
Carter, Jerry Rice, Tim Brown. None of those guys are making my. I'm not doing anything with this guy. Isaac Bruce. I like Isaac Bruce a lot, but not making my spaceship.
I also think,
I
to an
mean,
extent, I also didn't want to go with your blatantly obvious Lions players. I wanted to broaden out a little bit and see what I
yeah,
could kind of pick elsewhere.
yeah. By the
So
way, I think I referred to Sterling. No, Shannon Sharp was a tight end. I was thinking about Sharp. Andre Reed would have also been. Andre Rison would have been the other Falcons player I would have won because he was a stud anyway.
yeah.
All right, good to see you, brother. I'm going to do my best to be there on Monday night for the draft.
Perfect.
So
Oh, yeah. So with that in mind, we did it last year as Hurl of the Line, but we brought in the college football. We're going to do a crossover finally of the AAW universe. And we're going to do our full 32 snake mock draft. It will be being done this week as like in terms of the prep, in terms of the making the picks. officially. And then on Monday, we will record and you will find out who we picked, where, and when. This gives me the time to go make the graphics and do all the stuff backstage to make it happen. There will be the draft order got selected before, and someone's about to be on the clock very, very soon. Um, so yeah, tune in next week for our full 32 first round mock draft, and that should be a lot of fun. And then obviously the week after, we'll be covering what happened in the draft, and then we'll be preparing for the schedule, and then God help us after that one. That's just gonna.
Then you're on your own for a month, guys. No, we'll come up with some fun stuff. We always
Oh
do.
yeah, I've got some ideas in the pipeline. Very, very potentially bad
Oh,
ideas,
I've seen
but
them.
not some of the ones I came up with this morning. So anyway, what we hurdling today, Chapman?
Hurdling that spaceship
Hurdling that spaceship. See you later.
right onto the draft. Sweet, sweet draft.